Okay, candidates, good afternoon. I'm Jerry Mulligan. I'm publisher of the Chronicle, and I want to welcome you to the Citrus County Chronicle's annual political forum. This has been a public service event coordinated by the newspaper for the last 60 years. Our tradition has been to conduct this forum at the County Auditorium in Inverness, but the COVID-19 has changed everything about this year's election process. In respect for public health concerns of holding large indoor public gatherings, we are conducting these recorded interviews to share with the voting public between now and primary day. In County Commission District 5 races, there are 2 candidates seeking the post, and there is no incumbent. The candidates are Holly Davis and Jimmy T. Smith. Mr. Smith was an incumbent in the District 3 race, but he decided to switch districts. Each of the candidates are Republicans, and since there are no challengers, the winner of the August 18th vote will be the next county commissioner. This is a universal primary contest, so all voters will be able to participate. The format will be that each candidate will be given a 3-minute opening statement, followed by questions from a reporter, and I'm going to be the reporter today. And then at the conclusion, each candidate will be given a 1-minute closing statement. So with that, we are going to begin. And Ms. Davis, you get the start at the opening statement.
Great. Thank you for hosting us. My name is Holly Davis, Republican candidate for County Commission District 5. I am both a hometown girl, a Crystal River graduate, but I've also spent time away, earning a degree from the University of Texas at Austin, building a successful business, and helping companies large and small reach their goals through strategic, cost-effective planning. Here's how this duality of background makes me uniquely suited to serve you, the citizens of Citrus County, at this most critical juncture in our history. It happens to also be why I'm running. I love our county. I love our waters. I love our small town charm. When I first moved here, the population was 1/3 what it is today. I was a river child and I fell in love with the nature coast, and it makes me fiercely protective of that today. My degree and career in strategic planning and marketing gives me the insight to drive the change needed from the top down. Our current county government is only looking 1 year out with a nod to a couple years past that. We need to be planning decades out to both envision what we want and to also strategically map out the steps to get there. Growth is going to happen. I choose to see it as an opportunity to intelligently manage, to build the middle section of our economy where higher wage jobs and careers flourish. This broadens our tax base to help keep taxes in check, and it also gives your adult kids a way to stay nearby without sacrificing their own career dreams. In my own time away, I lived in communities that both handled growth beautifully and some that absolutely ruined it. They sold out and they ruined what was special to them. We are on the cusp of big change here, and we are not remotely ready. I am the candidate who will build the consensus and drive the change needed to get us working together for a Citrus County future that we can all still love. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Very good. Mr. Smith.
Thank you very much. My name is Jimmy T. Smith, and I am candidate for District 5. Mainly to better improve the quality of life for Citrus County, there are 3 things that we need to work on. Better paying jobs to ensure that our youth want to stay here and grow and have their future. Improving our infrastructure to allow that to happen, as well as to ensure that we're protecting our environment. More infrastructure, sewer and water means less things that impact our waterways. Not only that, this incredible county has a history that we need to work to protect. As a county commissioner, when I first ran for office, I talked about the wasteful spending that was going on, paving roads that no one lived on. So upon getting elected, I right away started to work with staff and fundamentally drove the conversation that helped guide to creating a formula to where we make sure your tax dollars actually go into paving roads you live on, not roads that are to nowhere. Second, infrastructure has been a huge priority for me. from the times I've supported restoration with sewer and water projects to the push for reuse. Infrastructure drives our future. Infrastructure will allow us to grow our businesses. More infrastructure on the main thoroughfares ensures that more businesses can grow there with an easiest process. But also, we need sewer and water in our residential areas, in Citrus Springs and other locations. That also impacts our waterways, not just the need for sewer and water along the coastline. Last but not least, I've been proud to champion the ordinance, the historic ordinance that Citrus County has. This ordinance is important because the history I grew up with, I want to currently have and enjoy, but also lead to my daughter to ensure that she gets to enjoy it as well. The days of growing up in Citrus County and seeing our children leave has to end. I have fought nonstop to be one thing, the people's representative on this government. More often than not, people will come to me and ask me to drive issues that are important to them. And I've been blessed to take those to my peers and fight for the average citizen. There is no reason that in a representative government you don't have a stronger voice. And I have been proud and honored to be that voice, to fight for better jobs, fight to improve your infrastructure, and fight to protect your history. I'm Jimmy T. Smith, and I hope you'll vote for me August 18th in the primary. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Let's go ahead and begin with a few questions. And this one, number one, the incumbent has publicly called for the dismissal of staffers who work for the county administrator. We'll start with to Mr. Smith, and then I have a follow-up to Ms. Davis. But to Mr. Smith, what do you hope to accomplish by publicly calling for staffers to be fired, even though that's the responsibility of the county administrator?
Well, let me be very clear. First and foremost, I never called for them to be fired. I said I would have no problem if they were. So basically, we have had decades of stagnation of job growth in this county. And people have always said, well, if we can ever figure out where it is, we'll do something about it. And yet they say that, and they continue to say that, and nothing improves. They say, well, we need to change things within government to make government move faster, yet nothing improves. So I had the courage to listen to citizens of this community who specifically have identified the Land Development Department as being one of the hindrance, and that's why I suggested I would have no problem with her being removed or reassigned.
To Ms. Davis, what would your approach for county staffers for whom you disagree with? What would your approach be in dealing with that?
Well, for starters, you always respect the chain of command. The only two people that report to the county commissioners are the county attorney and the county administrator. If somebody who works for one of them is behaving badly, I would respectfully go to the top person and then leave it up to them to work their way down. We have a chain of command for a reason.
Okay. Follow up on that one. You know, we've heard from county commission candidates in both districts who are critical of the county's permitting process. Is the process flawed? And if so, to Mr. Smith, what have you done to improve it?
Well, is it flawed? Absolutely. There are enough businesses out there that will directly refer you to challenges that they've had. So I brought up suggestions on ways to improve things. One of the things when I first got elected to office, I had suggested that we bring in technology to allow for the permitting process and inspections to move faster. My peers turned it down, denied it. Funny thing is that the new assistant administrator, I had commented to him about that. He says, oh yes, we use that in Alachua County. It saved us money and it made the permitting process much faster. So there is a tool out there for us to use. We just have to have the courage to make that step and use the technology.
Okay, Ms. Davis, what's the first thing you would do as a commissioner to fix it if you think it's broken?
Well, first off, I need to do a really deep dive and talk to the county administrator and determine if it is broken. My own personal interaction with government over the years, especially for permitting, is that it is a culture of no, shall we say, and that has to go. So we have to figure out a way to do that. I have not worked for government 1 minute my entire life. I have been in business my entire life, and we cut the fat in business. We have to. That's what we do. And so that's what needs to happen when you look at county government. You know, you got to figure out a way to protect our environment and protect the community interests while still allowing business to move forward efficiently.
Okay, good. We're going to go ahead. We're going to start with you, Ms. Davis, on this question. The Suncoast Parkway should be connected to State Road 44 by 2022. What's the impact of the Parkway going to be on Citrus County, and are we ready for it?
No, we're not ready for it. I look at infrastructure as the skeleton that forms the body, shall we say. It's the community. The infrastructure has to be the first thing that we look at for what we want to look like in 2040 and 2060. And from like I said, I've never worked for government before. What I have figured out is that government in the sunshine is both wonderful because citizens can actually see what's going on, but it can also be an impediment. And to my mind, having 2 meetings a month on the dais with 5 commissioners, you can't get big things done. And so the first thing I'm going to do is call for a series of workshops, frequent workshops. And the very first thing is to figure out how we're going to make the most of the Suncoast opportunity and also make sure it doesn't ruin this county.
Mr. Smith, same question. You've been on the board 4 years. Is the county ready for the Suncoast Parkway? And if not, what should be done about it?
Well, truthfully, there are some that are ready for it. There are some staff that have the initiative and have taken that initiative to move forward. But things that need to be done, and I addressed this previously with the board, as an example, Cardinal from the Suncoast to 19 should have already been in the process to be 4-laned. And for us to wait until that's done to then 4-lane it shows that we truly are not prepared. Not only that, the zoning that goes around that, the interchange management area, as they call it, really needs to be rezoned to allow for the densification to make sure that we don't impact our green space. Those plans should have been done decades ago. So we are far behind the curve on getting those things accomplished. And how do you get that done? You push hard for staff to move faster, and then of course you address your peers and you get things accomplished. Again, I told my peers that I felt we should 4-lane Cardinal now and ask for it sooner rather than later, and it was dismissed. So it's basically changing the mindset of current elected officials.
Okay, well, I need to follow that up and just ask, you've been there 4 years and you haven't had a lot of luck in changing the opinion of your peers. You make recommendations. What goes into that? What's missing that you can't bring the peers along to see your point of view on issues like this?
Well, as previously mentioned, there's a culture of no. And it does also stand within the county commission. There's currently a culture of no, that we don't need to change anything and we don't need to look forward. So having given examples of looking forward and preparing for the future, I quite often find that my peers are not willing to do that. So as an example, we talked about the vision for Beverly Hills to improve the quality of life. Suggested a food truck park in Beverly Hills at the Central Ridge Community Park would be a great way to improve the quality of life. Let the businesses come in and make things better. The answer to it was, I don't get it. I don't see it. So it's not those of us who have vision that need to be changed. It's those people without vision and without the audacity to lean forward in the foxhole.
Ms. Davis, would you have a different approach to getting your peers to see your view of the world?
I've spent 30 years building consensus and selling visions. That's all I do in marketing. We do a deep dive, we figure out what the situation is, we figure out where we want to go, and without any ego, you have to go in there and present your ideas and build consensus with a pretty varied group of people. There's accountants in the room, there's CEOs, there's people from research, there's more creative people like me. As you can tell by the jacket I'm wearing, I'm a little bit creative. But you have to have the sales skills and the humility to bring people along with you and prepare before you go in.
Okay. A good follow on that one. You talk a lot about strategic thinking and planning, but the other job of a county commissioner is to listen to a citizen who calls up and says there's a pothole in front of my road, or there's something wrong with my community park, some little minuscule issue. How would you deal with the small items?
As you might imagine, yesterday was a pretty busy day for me. We're in the thick of campaigning, and I was trying to prepare for this, and I was getting pulled in several different directions. And I got a call from a gentleman named Nick, who's a retired New York City cab driver, and he wanted to know where I stood on a particular issue. And he told me his story, about how his father had a hard time with something. And I listened to him for quite a while, very patiently. And honestly, I moved back here to help my mom through her 4 years of dementia, and that was the greatest challenge and the greatest honor of my life, to help her through that. And I am happy to say at this age, I have a lot of humility and patience and love for people from all walks of life, and I have absolutely no problem spending the time to let them share their story.
Very good. Mr. Smith, can you give us an example of one time as a commissioner where you helped an individual out, where you got something accomplished?
Oh, I got a lot of things accomplished.
Just one.
Everything from changing ordinance specifically. So we'll give you this example. The 4-H community and the FFA community came to me and said, there's areas that are the same size, lot size, but they're zoned differently. That means that children who want to do these 4-H and FFA programs can't do it simply because of a zoning issue. Can you have that change? So I brought it to the dais, worked with agriculture, worked with the various people in the development of the ordinance, and worked with my peers, and absolutely got that passed. Got the zoning for the drone park, got zoning for the community gardens, and so on and so on and so on. So I have a long history of success.
Okay, very good. Here's a quick yes or no question. Do you live in the district you want to serve? Ms. Davis?
Yes, I do.
Ms. Smith?
I'm currently buying a house there.
You're buying a house, okay. Next question. Citrus County found itself in the national spotlight late last year when county commissioners refused to pay for online subscriptions to the New York Times for library patrons. There was much discussion on the board and in the community about whether county commissioners should use their personal political beliefs in decision-making. What do you think about that? Mr. Smith, why don't you start? You voted in favor of that, correct?
No, absolutely not. I voted against it. I don't think that we should have made a fundamental shift to online. So what happened was, without going to the county commissioners, the library system put on the agenda item to move to digital for the New York Times. My opinion is that you can get access to just as much news on general platforms, but also that is a fundamental shift in the norm of operating a library. So I was completely opposed to it. It should not have anything to do with politics, and for me it didn't. My point was, why should we pay for something like that with the addition of the statement I didn't say, when you can already get it for free online?
Okay, Ms. Davis.
You're going to love my closing statement.
Okay.
But about that specific topic, that is actually, it was not the reason I jumped into the race, not even remotely the reason, but it was the flashpoint. It's what really made me wake up to the fact that maybe I needed to think about running for, that's why I was asked to run, actually. Politics, we need to remember that we represent everybody in this county, and some people want to read the New York Times, and that's fine. But further than that, from, again, back to chain of command and having people that you trust working for you and on down the road, do not get into the weeds of line item and a budget item. The director of library systems has a master's degree in library science. If he is overall not doing a good job, he or she, then you find a new director of library systems. You don't go micromanaging his budget. And furthermore, as far as the digital thing goes, especially with what we've seen with kids having to learn from home, I am fully aware that we have poor children in this county that don't have the digital access that they need. I'm fully aware of that. That being said, that's going to have to change rapidly with the world that is coming to fruition right now. And last I checked, all the times I had to do research papers back in the day before the internet, it was microfiche. Tell me how you're going to do research papers with paper newspapers versus having a digital subscription where you can enter in the search bar something that you want to look for.
Just for the record, some of us still love paper newspapers. But I want to ask an employment question. We discussed it a little bit earlier. Both of you have other professions. Ms. Davis, you've talked about your experience in marketing and strategic thinking, and Mr. Smith, we know that you recently accepted another job representing a political action, I think it's a political action group that's out there trying to influence legislation outside of the county. What's the priority for you? Okay, and let's start with Ms. Davis. What's the priority? If you get elected county commissioner, what's the priority?
The county commission job, absolutely. I'm blessed to be at a point where both of my companies, one, I spend maybe 30 minutes, an hour a week on, and I still pull income from it. And the other one, I can take jobs as I feel that I have the capacity to do so, and I have a team to shift the rest of the work to. So
Okay.
absolutely, the county commission is number one.
Mr. Smith?
Well, absolutely, obviously, county commission. But the premise is, I think, a little skewed because there's no reason that you can't equally provide both with today's technology. So as an example, I got up this morning, 6:30, started answering emails. By 7:30, I was working on issues of an article that's going to be drafted and printed into a newspaper that will talk about the issues of veterans health care. So it is so easy to simply slip from one item to the next, and it won't impact. And I can tell you, I'll be driving today over to Vero Beach, and in that time frame, I will be on phone calls with issues in this community. If I have to send a text, I'll pull over, take a break, get some gas, send the emails or send a text. And because of technology, I can do this all at the same time.
Okay. All right, candidates, good job answering the questions. Let's go ahead and do our closing statements. And I believe I started with Ms. Davis, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, so we will start with Mr. Smith in conclusion.
Well, thank you. It's an honor to be here. It's an honor to have served not only my nation, but my county. You know, the reality is that I do a lot of things in this community that sometimes does get the attraction of the newspapers and others. But what should be the question that you should be asking about all that is, why is it that citizens feel so comfortable coming to me to address their issues? Why is it that in a representative form of government, I am the one, more often than not, bringing things to the agenda because the citizens want it? When you vote for somebody, and you hopefully will vote for me this August 18th, it's because you want somebody who has the courage to stand up for you and tell government you are not happy with the way things are functioning, and have the courage to be your voice. I have been that voice, and I ask to be honored to be able to continue to be that voice. My name is Jimmy T. Smith. I'm running for County Commissioner, District 5, and I hope you'll vote for me this August 18th. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Ms. Davis.
Many of you may know me as the daughter of Captain Tom Davis, who after 33 years as a Navy fighter pilot, recently finished a 41-year second career at Crystal River Airport. If you know him, you know my ethics, and you know my backbone. Something I also learned from him is dignity and respect in dealing with others. In 2020, we find ourselves in a time of hatred towards our neighbors, or at least you would think so if you listen to the loudest voices out there. I roundly reject this. We are not red versus blue. We are red, white, and blue. And I believe most Americans would like their leaders to listen to the citizens, all citizens, then do what we are supposed to do, which is lead. Some places I've lived were heavily Republican, some so left-leaning, I swear I was one of 5 registered Republicans in the whole county. I learned to get along with and respect many, many different opinions while still staying true to my own core beliefs. This skill is immensely needed in these troubled times. And because consensus must be built to get anything done, and we are much delayed in doing so in Citrus County. My name is Holly Davis. I'm running for County Commission District 5, and I would be so honored to have your vote on August 18th.
Okay, good job, candidates. Thank you for coming this afternoon. Good luck out there and be safe.
Thanks.